Welcome back to the African Fighters Knockouts. It's your boy JB back again. Yes, guys, today we are breaking down the UFC Kansas City fight night. Ian Machado Garry wins the main event after a short time coming in. Short replacement, I believe. David Onama gets a huge win over Giga Chikadze. Zhang Mingyang sends Anthony Smith into retirement, and we saw yet another defeat to our South African prodigy Cameron Saaiman. And also, ladies and gentlemen, Kamaru Usman is officially back, and he's going to face dangerous Joaquin Buckley. We'll talk about that. And we have to talk about Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. The drama, injury rumors, call outs, whether the fight will happen. We don't know. Finally, we'll jump into the boxing world and kind of like review that Chris Eubanks versus Conor Benn fight that happened last night in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the African Fighters Podcast. I am Jibril of the African Fighters Podcast, and today with me, guys, holy crap, someone's calling me. But yes, today with me it is Mark Tolefe from Boro. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. Mark, how are you doing? First of all, before we get into it.
Yeah, I'm great. It's nice to be here as usual. Great fights this last weekend. So yeah, it should be fun talking about everything. Should be fun analyzing post fights.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be too long tonight because it's a bit late and we both have work to do tomorrow, don't we? Um,
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, King Dems is here. Dems, how you doing, my brother? We're about to
Uh,
jump into this one, and as I was
all
saying,
good, all good.
we're going to make quick work of this. Thank you for joining us today, King Dems, as well.
Thank you. Always glad to be here on the board. I had to clear my schedule just to be here. It means a lot to me. The sport we love.
Yeah, I do know. I do know you had to do that. I Did you guys catch the UFC fight night yesterday, Kansas City? Let's talk about that main event real quick. Ian Garry looked good, but was it impressive enough to call out a top five guy? Is it impressive enough for him to be calling out for a title shot now? Mark, what do you think?
Mhm. I think, of course, the welterweight division has always been stacked. That's the problem. I mean, the UFC, in my own opinion, they made that mistake with Belal and JDM. Obviously, Shafkat was
Well,
out, but it kind of made things a bit complicated because JDM normally shouldn't be fighting for the title. I kind of feel like what's his name? And Gary deserved him more, but of course he lost to Shafkat. That I guess that was what made it dicey. But I feel like Ian should fight somebody else. But there's no one to fight actually because Buckley is
mm,
fighting Kamaru. So in if we're looking upwards, I really don't see anybody left for him to fight. So he might need to wait it out. He might need to wait it out
I don't think he's
for
going to wait it out. So far, he has shown that he's a company man. He takes all comers. His last two fights were fights that he did not
Mhm.
have to take, right? So I
Yeah.
don't think that he has that in him to wait out. But before
But
before we
here's the
jump the
thing.
gun, I think
Here's the thing.
let's
Okay.
talk about that his performance against Prates yesterday. Demola, how impressed were you last night by the way he survived? He won 28-27 across the board, but he survived in the championship
Uh,
rounds. What did you think, Demola, about that
48,
performance?
48,
40,
47. Rather, it
48,
was a
47,
rough
my bad.
fight.
Yeah.
Yes. I said something on Instagram, right? Ian Gary actually has one of the greatest fight IQs in MMA history. He's not the best of fighters, but he knows how to manage a fight, right? We saw what happened in the fifth round, and Carlos Prates nearly knocked him out, nearly finished him, or he was able to hang in there. That is fight IQ. So basically, MMA is a physical sport, but a lot of people tend to underrate and undermine the mental aspect of the game. Right, the mental aspect is even more important than the physical aspect, and that is what separates the great from the good. right? So I think he's actually going to go on to do really great things in the sport. I think he's actually a future champion, right? And he has that dose of confidence in him. So for me, I am actually impressed with the performance from yesterday. You don't have to be the best physically, right? But if your mental game is elite level, I will respect you, and that is what he put on display yesterday. And for me, I'm impressed. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, big shout out to Machado Garry. He was mixing it up. I think he got his most takedowns ever in a fight. I've never seen him being this heavy in grappling before. The first time I saw that, I believe,
He
was
was
when he fought
against
Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, right? I
no, I
think
think
that
it
was the
was
fight
Page
that he.
MVP.
Oh,
MVP,
MVP, my bad. Yeah,
MVP.
MVP. He tried to grapple as
Yeah.
much. Anyways, big shout out to him. The top of the middle welterweight division is getting a bit interesting.
Very,
It's
very
getting a
quick
little bit
one. Very
busy.
quick one, Jibril. Very quick one,
Mhm.
Jibril. Just to analyze from a technical standpoint, you'd see that Carlos Prates is the most dangerous weapon he has is that the left
His
hook, right?
legs.
And yeah, do you see what he did right there? He was kicking at Carlos Prates. How many of his opponents have you seen him kicking like that? Ian Garry is not very big on the kicks, right? But
No,
he was able
he,
to put those kicks up, right? The head kicks
Ian
in order
Gary,
to
Ian Gary,
no,
Ian Gary
no,
likes head kicks, so
he
he
kicks well.
kicks
He's a
very well.
solid kickboxer,
Yeah,
probably the best in that
yeah.
but
division.
but what happened? He wasn't aiming at the head properly, right? He was aiming at the
He
hands.
was,
And
oh,
you see the
He
tip kicks,
was.
right? And he was able to destroy that weapon. We all see what Carlos
No, but
Prates does to everybody.
I think
so essentially, you're saying he was kicking the hand. He was kicking
Yeah,
practice's hand.
he was aiming for the head, right? So killing
Mhm.
one two birds with one stone, right? If you miss the head, don't miss the hand. And he was able
Mhm.
to neutralize him.
so for
People
Carlos
were probably
Prates,
thinking Carlos Prates was looking flat yesterday. Do you think he looks
I
flat?
don't I don't the problem with Prates, and if you look at all his previous fights, is the fact that Prates is very similar to Topuria in a way. They take their time to understand you. They try to corner you to a particular part of the cage. Then they use their power. The only
But
difference
did you see
between
the lateral movement?
well,
Did you see the lateral movement Ian
yes,
Guy was
that's what I'm
doing, right?
saying. That's what I'm saying. The difference between Topuria and what's his name,
Practice?
Prates, is that Topuria is more dynamic. Topuria is not just a power puncher. I see
Hmm.
Prates has two major tools in his arsenal. He's a very good
Okay.
Muay Thai fighter, so he uses his knees a lot. So
Hmm.
he tries to trap you with his knee before going with the left hook.
So did you see what Ian Gary did?
So,
Closing the
so
range.
the thing is, prior to this fight, had never fought a dynamic striker.
Hmm.
So he had never been tested. Let's put it this way. And Gary, in my own personal opinion, people might say, what's his name, is a better striker in the welterweight division. Who is there again? I think
Wonder Boy,
Leon Edwards.
nah, not Leon. Leon is not dynamic. He gets
Wonder Boy.
this guy, Wonder Boy, but of course he's out. He's no more. He's no longer in his prime. Yangari is the best
Mhm.
when it comes to kickboxing. When it comes to technical ability as a striker,
Hmm.
no one matches up with him in that. You can say MVP could also be in that category, but MVP is a bit one-dimensional with the way he fights. It works for him, but it's one dynamic. So you cannot say it's dynamic enough. This guy has so many things in
Mhm.
his tools, and he develops rapidly. That's why he's always with the Bronx. He always, you
Hmm.
see him,
The
doing
jiu-jitsu, the wrestling.
with them. He's a nomadic fighter. He doesn't have a camp. He goes
Hmm.
everywhere.
And you
So
saw
yeah,
how he mixed it all up properly
yes.
yesterday, right?
Prates is
That is
just
a fair
Prates is
IQ.
like
Guys,
Prates.
guys, we're taking too much time in this main event. There's quite a lot we are going to talk
Okay,
about
let's
today.
move on.
Yeah, yeah. We will talk about the welterweight division again when we get to Kamaru Usman versus Buckley. Um, yeah. So I'm going to run through the main card. Anthony Smith suffered a KO.
So
He
sad.
was
No,
bleeding from the top of his head after taking some razor-like elbows to the head versus Zhang from China. Uh, it's overdue. Anthony Smith has been an analyst now, and it kind of looks like he's going to continue being an analyst of the sport. Very, very intelligent mind in the game. Big shout out to him. There isn't too much to talk about in this fight. I'm sure he's left a giant legacy. He once upon a time he contended for the light heavyweight. He could have been a light heavyweight champion if against John Jones. He could be one
You
person
have
that
done
has
the
beat
same
John
thing.
Jones.
Benjamin Sterling, indeed.
Yeah. So, anyways, big shout out to him. He's a stud. We already know. All right. How about our Ugandan boy David Onama defeating Giga Chikadze via unanimous decision? It wasn't one of
Impressive.
the most exciting fights of Onama. Onama has been notorious for receiving fight bonuses, right?
Yeah,
And this time it was his hometown, not necessarily hometown, but you get what I mean. Kansas City, that's where he grew up. He was born in Uganda, obviously, at 10 years old, then moved to Kansas, and that's where he's training out of as well. He was there with Zalal in his corner. Came out to Mobad's song of Waiting Be This One Like This. I don't know if you guys noticed that workout song.
yeah.
Anyways,
I've heard.
big shout out to David Onama. Thoughts about his performance, Mark. Mark, did you catch this fight?
Yes, I did. And I understand why you would say it wasn't the most explosive fight. But then again, that has been the toughest fight of his career so far. I don't think he has fought anyone on that level. And Giga is like in that division is probably the best kickboxer in that division. The guy's kicks are crazy. So I understand he tried to limit Onama. Onama couldn't brawl with him because just like what Iron was doing, he was kicking his legs, kicking his sides. Well, it was a good fight. Yeah, you could say it was technical. Uh, Onama is a brawler, so if and the good thing I liked about the fight was that he was able to mix it up well. They got to a point where he realized, okay, yeah, these kicks might destabilize me. Let me switch to wrestling. I think
The
it took
Giga kick.
Giga down. Yeah, the Giga kick, that's what it's known as. I think it took him down like what, three times, in the fight. And that was like for him, I think that was even a record and takedown that
Yeah,
he has.
yeah. Onama is never wrestling heavy. Not that he doesn't have it in his arsenal. He's more notorious for the explosive hands he's got, and sometimes he fights like a zombie because like you think he's
Yeah.
out and he's back into it. I know
The
that's not
fight
a smart
against
way of
what
fighting,
was this
taking
American
damage and giving damage.
Nate, right? That fight against Nate was just wild. I think that was probably
Yeah,
his
yeah.
first
That
Nate
was
UFC
that was
title.
Sager. Nate the
yeah,
train.
that was like fight of the year
Yeah.
that year, wasn't it? Or a contender
Yeah.
at least. Um, yeah, yeah. Demola, did you catch that fight?
I caught it midway, but what I'll say about that fight is a man has to do what a man has to do, you know, and he did what he had to do. So sometimes you don't need to make it look pretty. You just have to show up and show out. And I'm happy for him.
Well, he's not going to get a bonus for that performance, but what he's going to get is 25% of the purse of Giga Chikadze because Giga Chikadze missed weight yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out Temba the answer Gorimbo. You will never walk alone. If you don't know, that's a Liverpool thing. Congratulations, Liverpool, English Premier League champion. Gorimbo says, hey, it's not fight IQ. It's being well rounded and able to use all skills in MMA. Fight IQ is an overrated statement. Just say fully well rounded like GSP. I think he's talking about
That's
Ian Garry
I
that
got
we,
it.
we
Yeah.
referenced. Yeah, big shout
that's
out
quite
somebody answer.
debatable, but we
It's
won't go
cr-
down
it's
that rabbit hole today.
it's it's crazy. It's crazy up north. Liverpool. The scores. What's that accent they call Scouse? Yeah,
Scouts,
The
scouts.
Scouse.
Scousers, the
The
Scousers.
Scousers. The
Just like
Scousers
Paddy,
have.
scouts don't get knocked out. So
Well, Mark, you're closer to Liverpool than we are. You're in Borough, aren't you?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
big shout
Good
out to
for them.
Liverpool. I'm sure you have a few Liverpool fans. Ladies and gentlemen, just as we are rounding up UFC Kansas, we have none other than Ebuka, the tycoon, joining us from London, England, host of the Curious Tycoon podcast. Yo, Ebuka, when did you rebrand, man?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, rebranding is part of business. It's part of growth. It's part of
Exactly.
innovating and making things better. So yeah, recently did that. So now my podcast is called the Curious Tycoon Podcast, and it's one of the fastest growing podcasts on YouTube now. Check it out, guys. Check it out.
All right, thank you for the cheap plug. Let's get back into it. All right, one fight that was sad for us is Malcolm Wellmaker knocking out Cameron Saaiman in his debut. I'm talking about Wellmaker's debut. Both of Cameron Saaiman and Wellmaker are both alumni of Dana White Contender Series. Cameron Saaiman was someone that came into the UFC. Currently, he's got 6 fights, actually 7 fights in the UFC. He came in undefeated from EFC, dropped the bantamweight title in EFC South Africa, came over, not got a knockout in Dana White Contender Series, started his UFC career 3-0, and unfortunately, right now he's currently 0-3 in his current streak is 0-3. He hasn't won any of his last 3 fights, and um, he lost those fights rather sadly. And last night wasn't a nice thing to see. I watched that fight early in the prelims before I went to bed. I went to bed sad because, like, if you watch that knockout, the way Simon got knocked out, Simon has
It's
like that
horrible.
boyish look. He looks like a kid, doesn't he? Well, he's 24. And when he got slept, he literally went to sleep like that on his side, like a baby sleeping. It wasn't, it wasn't, if you had a bit of humor in it, it would be funny, but it's sad to see that. I don't know if he's lost his confidence. Before this fight, he was inactive for over a year. Before him being inactive, he was very active for three, where he won his 3 fights. And the fourth fight was that fight that he took where I believe people were telling him not to, and he did. And then he went and he lost via knockout to what's the name of that kid that's got that like black hole tattoo in his chest? I forgot. The guy that knocked him out. He's another exciting prospect. Now the thing is, the UFC are not giving Cameron Simon favorable matchups, and as a UFC fighter, you will know that if you have gathered a certain amount of losses, they are going to cut you. And some matchups that they will give you, you think that they are giving you that matchup so they can cut you.
Yeah.
Because this last fight, Wellmaker that he fought was even the favorite in the odds by the odd makers. Wellmaker is undefeated and he packs dynamite for punches. And Simon, his bread and butter is mostly striking, and he's not a crouch when it comes to grappling. But I don't know, that matchup, it kind of feels like the UFC and are doing that on purpose. Are they trying to kick him out? I don't know. But Demola, what do you think?
So basically, there are no easy matchups in the UFC, right? Sometimes you think, oh, this person is getting favorable matchups. A good example is the former champion at bantamweight. What's this guy? The flashy guy.
Sugar
Sean.
Sean?
Sugar Sean O'Malley, right? So we saw him move from number 11 to fight Petr Yan at number 1, but he did get the job done. You have to get the job done. For me, I stand to be corrected, and I'm glad that Themba Gorimbo is in the comment section. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. I think that Cameron Saaiman has a size disadvantage at bantamweight. So I think he should actually cut down to the flyweight division, and he would have an advantage over there. So that's what I see. Basically, he's a very very good fighter. He's well rounded, but when you have a size disadvantage, against these really really crazy beasts in the UFC. The UFC is the elite of the elite. It's the top of the food chain when it comes to MMA. So you need to find that weight division where you would excel. So I think he's giving us shadows of what's this guy who fought Gregor Gillespie, who fought for the interim championship at lightweight, Kevin Lee, right? Kevin Lee was, too
Yeah.
small for welterweight and a bit big for lightweight. So when he went up to welterweight, we saw what happened to Kevin Lee. So I think he should, find a way to work with his nutritionists, his
No,
coaches, his
yeah,
performance
Demola, I
coaches,
was I,
and
wa-
go
I was
down.
going to hop on that weight cutting thing. He looks smaller than the guys in bantamweight. In my
Yeah,
head, it might be an African thing. In Africa, when you are fighting, the weight class you are fighting in is likely not the one that you should fight in if you travel
mhm,
outside of Africa. But
exactly.
yeah, with South Africans, I think South Africans are one of the guys that are doing it the best when it comes to fighters actually cutting weight and being in the right weight class, unlike where we are
Mhm.
from West Africa. But that being said, if you look at that boy, he doesn't have anything left to cut. Do you understand?
You
That's
just need to
it.
work with the right nutritionist. Trust me. Like the
Yeah.
science, weight cut is a
That's his
science,
weight.
not an art.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was going to ask Ebuka what he thinks about the weight class for
Yeah.
Saaiman because it's almost like a last card for a fighter to play when he's in the
Mm.
UFC. We've seen it countless times. Before a fighter gets caught when they are losing, you'd see at some point they'll be like they are changing weight class because that's like the last card to play. Do you think Ebuka that is something that would help?
Yeah, I mean, it helps some people. We've seen it help some people where they move to another weight class and they
Kevin
start
Holland.
tearing it up. We've also seen it obviously go the other way. It's one of those things. But if when you look at him, I think you're right when you say he's obviously trying to do it the right way. That's why somebody like Kobe, for instance, and honestly, I do respect people like that who stick to fighting at their actual weight class instead of trying to be a weight bully by trying to go down to a weight class where you can sort of have that advantage. Which this is just my opinion. Obviously, there's no law against that or rule against that. But it was sad yesterday. Funny enough, I was sleeping and waking up yesterday during that card. So, but I did see that fight and I saw that knockout, and I even had to record it and send to someone. I was talking to my friend. I recorded it and sent to someone, and they're like, "Oh, this is terrible,"
Yeah,
And
it
Not a
was
good
sad.
look.
Like, yeah, I'm
Not
it
just
not
gonna
wasn't
to
very
before we
so
move away, I just want to say like the
Jibril,
entrance. Uh-huh.
Jibril, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
to interrupt you. Just to make this very, very clear cut and apparent, can you imagine Cameron Salmon against the likes of Aljamain Sterling, against the likes of Sean O'Malley, against the likes of Merab, against the likes of what's Khabib's brother's name? When you
Omar.
put him,
Umar.
yeah, Omar. When you put him side by side, these guys. What's the other lanky guy?
yeah, bigger.
Uh,
Corey Sanigan.
Sanhagen,
So,
put
yeah.
him, side by side these guys, then you know that, bro, you should not be in this weight class. That's my submission.
Yeah.
Remember, like last year, I was high on Saaiman. I was the guy that is telling you he is top 10. He is top 10. But um, the same way that it looks like he has lost a little bit of the confidence that he had. He almost felt invisible when he had the O,
I didn't even
and
know that he was on a 3-fight losing streak. So has he not won in the UFC at all?
no,
He won his first
he
couple of
came into
When
fights.
the
he came
he
in,
came
it was
he came
3-0.
he came into the UFC undefeated. He went to Dana
Hmm.
White Contender Series, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
he was on, I think he came into the UFC at 6-0. He went to Dana
yeah,
White
and he won
Contender
his
Series,
first three
won
fights.
by won by knockout, then won his first three fights in the UFC.
Hmm.
His
Hmm.
fourth fight, he lost
Christian
against, I keep on
Rodriguez.
forgetting this guy.
Christian Rodriguez.
No, 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 no,
Oh,
no.
Yeah, his
No,
first
no,
loss
no.
was against Christian Rodriguez. Then he lost against
Wasn't it?
Peyton Talbot. Peyton
Yeah,
Talbot was
okay,
his
okay,
last
yeah.
fight.
That
Yeah,
was
the guy
Talbot.
with
I
the
was
Talbot
remembering. So
is the one
he
with the
lost.
tattoo. Yeah.
yeah.
He lost against Christian Rodriguez, and Christian Rodriguez missed weight, and that was the fight that there were people were saying he shouldn't have taken. He took the fight, and he
yeah.
suffered a loss. He fought Talbot. Talbot was like the guy that kind of like welcomed him into the big leagues, in my opinion, because like when you watch that fight, there was like a big skill level difference in there. That Talbot was walking him down like
And
Robocop. He
size
wasn't feeling
mismatch.
anything, and there was like a mismatch in size as well.
Yeah.
And then this was his last, also like 7 fights in the UFC, or is it 6? Anyways, let's move on. All right, let's continue in the UFC. Kamaru Usman fight was announced last night. Kamaru will return to fight Joaquin Buckley at UFC Fight Night on June 14, 2025 in Atlanta, Georgia. It's Usman's first fight back at welterweight after losing to Khamzat Chimaev in 2023 when he jumped to middleweight. Buckley is on a 6-fight winning streak, including a big win over Kobe Covington, who is Usman's rival. Buckley called out Usman after knocking out Stephen Thompson in UFC 307. At first, Usman brushed off Buckley's call out, but later agreed to fight him, saying he's ready to come back strong. This fight is important for Usman to stop the losing streak and for Buckley to climb higher in the rankings. This is a thing. This is one of those fights of someone on a way down and someone on the way up. and it's one of those fights that could define a lot of things. Losing this fight could mean the end for Usman, at least as a credible title contender in the eyes of many. Winning this would throw him right back into the title picture. And then Joaquin Buckley winning this fight throws him right into the title picture as well. And losing this fight wouldn't do anything to him because he fought against a Hall of Famer. So it's one of those things where there's it's win-win for Joaquin Buckley, right? He's only if he loses to Usman, he's just losing momentum. But what say you guys? Let me start with Mark. Mark, you haven't spoken in a while. Mark, what do you think a loss in this fight would mean for Kamaru Usman?
Yeah, if Kamaru loses his fight, he will just become a journeyman. He will just become that guy that you have to like beat to get to the top. That's just it. Demola was talking about guys, changing weight categories, and Buckley is just a prime example of that. He was in the middleweight, he was in middleweight and he wasn't all that. He switched to welterweight and became a beast to welterweight mainly because of the size. He's not that much of a technical fighter when you watch him fight, right? He's got great. He's a brawler, but you can't say he's got technique when fighting. His strikes are not crisp. He just has that power. That's how he took Wonderboy out not too long ago. So for someone like Kamaru, it's a winnable fight. It's not one of those fights that you be like Kamaru doesn't have a chance. He has a chance. The wrestling might be tricky just because of Kamaru's situation. Let me tag it this way, because there's always this rumor flying around that his knees are gone. So we don't know how credible that is. If Kamaru really has issues with his knees, I don't think he'll be able to take Buckley down. And if he can't take Buckley down, then he would have to strike. And it could go either ways. Like I can't say Buckley would outstrike Kamaru. Kamaru, to be fair, is not that awesome a striker as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the two of them might just brawl it out, and it will just be a the best man win situation. But if he loses the fight, that's it for him. He might as well just call it quits and end his legacy there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, nice way you put it. Ebuka,
Yeah.
what does a win for Kamaru Usman mean? I've asked what a loss means, and what do you think a win would be, Ebuka?
Yeah, I'm going to start with, if you watched the last pound for pound podcast where Easy was in the session with Triple C and Kamaru, there was a moment where Triple C mentioned that, when I think Easy was talking about how they are all
0-3.
that kind of situation, and then Triple C was like, they are 0-3 now.
Yeah.
And they all laughed, which was quite funny, to see legends like that, sort of. And again, I've said this a lot of times. Dana White says it all the time as well. This sport is for the young man. It's not an old man sport. And then, Kamaru has paid his dues in the sport. And yeah, a loss for him. I asked about a win for him, yeah? Or a loss? A win. A win for him will obviously put him back there. He's one of the greatest welterweights in the division. He's a future Hall of Famer, of course. So a win just puts him right up there. I don't know who is the champion in that division these days. Belal. I mean,
remember the name. Remember the name.
So when Belal fights Jack, we'll see what happens there, and then maybe,
The
it's
Shafkat.
really interesting. I think Shafkat. I don't know if you have to, maybe if he wins, really, and I also said it. I think I've also admitted that Kamaru, I think his time is gone now. I don't think he's going to be champ anymore in the division. So if he wins this one, I think he should just try and maybe stick around, start taking some favorable matchups. Maybe fight what's his name? The old man.
Kevin Holland and the likes.
He should be fighting those kind of fights. Or with what's this guy? This karate guy now. 40
Stephen Thompson. Yeah,
Thompson. He should do those kind of fights with a legend like, you can do those fights because they are favorable. But putting him against someone like Garry or Shafkat, I don't see him winning any of those fights.
Okay. I would have agreed with you when before Volkanovski fought and won his title back, right? But since Volkanovski won his title
Ah,
back, I am
man.
hopeful again. I am hopeful again because we
The
have
biggest
seen.
Usman
Let me
fan.
finish. We have seen that Father's Time is undefeated, right? It's been it's been a sad couple of 3 years for me as an MMA fan. All my faves have been getting beaten left and right. As you mentioned, we saw that scene from a podcast where Triple C, Usman, and Easy were all laughing about being 0-3. That was funny, but it also hurt my heart again, and because I had to relive it, I had to remember it, right?
Yeah.
So when Volkanovski won his title back, I was like, huh, Usman might have a chance. And if he does, if Usman beats Buckley, right, and he gets a title shot and he wins the title, it would be the biggest, greatest comeback in the history of modern combat sports. I don't think you guys understand how massive
GSP
that
life.
is going to be. Bro, it's bigger than GSP, man. GSP
Mhm.
never went 0-3.
I honestly love Usman. I love him as a person. He's a great role model, but I just don't see it happening against the current crop.
Yeah. So
Dude,
personally,
you are
I
being
feel
you
like
dude, you are being
momentum.
realistic. You are being realistic, and I am
You're a bit
being
optimistic.
So you're living in
I'm being
fantasy.
optimistic.
Yeah.
No, but then it's not a blind optimism. Actually, it is not a blind
Yeah,
optimism. You said it, Mark,
yeah.
Yeah.
yourself that Buckley is not a technical fighter. You get it. And so
Yes.
and when you were talking, I just was remembering, right, the very third round against Khamzat Chimaev. So Usman, if you look at his last three fights,
He was not
he
dominated,
just lost.
basically.
He
Yeah.
was not totally dominated, right? He was dominating Leon before that Hail Mary kick. In the
Yeah.
second fight against Leon,
That
it
was a
was a
bad fight.
majority decision, right?
Hmm.
Even
Mm.
against Hamza Chimaev, he lost the first round 10-8, came back to win the next two rounds, but poor judging. That fight should have been a draw. And
But here's the thing.
if you
Yeah,
did
the
see
Mola.
that third round, he stood his ground against Hamzat. If that fight were five
Yes.
rounds, you would have seen what would have happened, right?
Agreed.
So, and he's
Yeah.
taking time off.
But
The
you know
needed
the
time
problem
off.
I have with fights like this. There's this thing about momentum.
Mhm.
Momentum is a very, very big deal. You know, when you are confident, you're on a it happens to even Sean, all these guys, they had that working for them when they won the title. When you're on a roll, you have your parts set and it is working like you're on a high projectile, like an upward projectile. It's always
Mhm.
hard for someone to stop you, especially someone that is low on confidence, someone that is coming from three defeats. That's the problem I have here.
Hmm.
Buckley is on a roll right now. He's confident. He's young. He has everything working for
And
him in his
and
favor.
he
Do
throws
you see?
he
Do you see,
throws his
do you see
The
he
guy
Buckley
throws his
winning a
throws.
punches
decision?
Still a
with
tough fight.
wicked intentions. And I
Yeah, do I see
swear
what?
it's one of the way
Do you see Buckley
Buckley
winning a
punches, yeah.
decision against
Wait,
Usman?
wait, wait.
I
The
see
way
Buckley
Buckley
winning
throws his punches, yeah, it looks
with
like those type
reckless
of punches
abandon.
that even if you have your high guard, it doesn't matter. That's how it looks
Yes,
like. However,
but this guy has a chin,
Usman's Usman's biggest defense has always been his wrestling, right?
and his
And
chin,
what it's not just his chin. He hasn't been
he
like
has a
beating or
big
hit
head.
on the chin too much. His wrestling has been his biggest defense, in my opinion, where strikers are afraid to openly strike properly, square their feet and strike because they know the wrestling is coming, right?
Mhm,
But we saw a different Usman when it came to the wrestling against Chimaev,
mhm.
right? And that was the first time where people were talking about the knees. No, that wasn't the first time. People have been talking
It
about the knees.
was
People have been
the
talking about the
last
knees.
Leon's fight. Can you remember the
Yeah.
last Leon fight? That was when I
Mm-hmm.
saw his wrestling depreciating, if I can use that word. He couldn't take Leon
Mm.
down. I was like, I knew it was over from there. Like you see Leon, everyone is throwing Leon around, just throwing
You know
him
that
away.
there was a time Leon took Kamaru Usman down, right? And
Yes,
Kamaru
that was
Usman did
in the
say that
second fight. Mm.
when he took him down, it was because he tripped his bad knee, his bad leg. I don't
Leon
think
did,
you remember.
yeah. And,
Yeah, he did
even
say
in
that
the
on Joe
fight,
Rogan.
he tripped him. Yeah.
Mm.
But that last
Anyways,
fight, nothing. He couldn't take
anyways,
Leon
guys,
down.
guys, guys, let's move on. Let's move on. Temba Gorimbo says, I like the kid. He's talking about Cameron Saaiman. He said, I like the kid, but it's sad seeing to this happen to him. The kid can bounce back, need a very good, favorable matchup. Maybe a grappler will be best, but that division has less grapplers.
Yeah.
That comes back to what Demola is saying.
Yeah.
Um, All right, let's talk about the topic where everybody is here for. All right, Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev. Everybody wants to see this one, right? It's the best middleweight fight to be made.
Mhm.
Um, uh, right. I'm going to take you through the timeline, right? Early April 2025, they started having were rumors that speculation arise that Dricus Du Plessis and Chimaev are set to clash in UFC 317 during International Fight Week. However, no official confirmation was provided by the UFC. Mid-April, injury rumors surfaced. Reports suggest that Dricus Du Plessis has suffered a shin injury, potentially sidelining him for 6 months and jeopardizing the UFC 317 bout. These rumors gained traction and causing some concern among fans and stakeholders, I included. April 2025, Du Plessis addresses injury speculation. Du Plessis takes to Instagram to refute the injury claims, stating, I found it all very entertaining. Unfortunately, none of it is true. Myself and the UFC already discussed the fight date and opponent. The June fight was never signed. I did not pull out of anything. He emphasized that he is fit and ready with a fight announcement forthcoming. Still in April, Dricos's coach confirmed fight plans. Dricos's coach says Du Plessis coach confirms that a fight with Chimaev is in the works, but clarifies that it will not occur at UFC 317. He labels the injury rumors as bull S-word and asserted that Du Plessis is healthy and preparing for the fight. And still in April, Chimaev went online and did what Chimaev does, expresses frustration over the delay and questions Dricos Du Plessis' readiness. Middleweight contender Boralo, that's one
Morale.
of the nerds, right?
Mm.
Offers to step in for an interim title fight against Chimaev, and all these dead sheet writers were designing graphics saying, "Oh, interim fight has been confirmed between Boralo and Chimaev," which wasn't true. I kind of feel like those fight nerds, they have a social media team and
Yeah.
they have
PR.
people, they have a meme team as well, a PR team that is feeding all these bloggers things. Because how can this gain traction? Because why would the UFC do this? It would only favor the Barao
Yeah.
guy. It will favor him and it would not favor Chimaev. So definitely we know where this news is coming from.
Hmm.
Anyway, so after last night's UFC event, Dana White confirmed, UFC president confirmed that Du Plessis versus Chimaev is officially set, though not for UFC 317. It's been discussed and agreed. He states that it's done, indicating that the bout will happen at a later date with details to be announced soon. All right, so that's the tail of the tape, if you will. And I'm going to ask Ebuka. No, no, let me go for Mark first because Mark, I think this one is your favorite. Why is it that there's always drama when it comes to Chimaev getting fights signed?
See, it's well, to be fair, we have Chimaev has so many issues. We know about his visa issues in the US. We know about health. But in this case, this is I don't think this is on Chimaev in any way, because the rumor was about Dricus being injured. Chimaev was ready to fight, so the rumor was centered around Dricus himself. So I don't think Chimaev has any faults in this regard or in this situation. Am I wrong? Yeah. I think
Chima,
it's
it
more of a
looks like
coincidence that just happened now, but he didn't pull
no,
out of anything.
it looks like Chimaev is the guy that is waiting for Dracos's camp. And we know that nobody can rush Dracos because Dracos, as a title contender, he was the guy that was like, nah, I will not fight until this time.
Yeah,
Remember when Easy was like,
yeah.
Adesanya was like, I'm not waiting for you. He fought Strickland and lost the title. Dracos could have been that guy, but Dracos was like, it's only 3 months after my fight, or was it 2 months? I can't remember exactly. He's like, he's not gonna do it. So we
Hmm.
know he's never in a hurry. I think money wise, he's doing all right. He looks like he's invested and he's getting a lot of these paychecks coming in South Africa. So with that being said, I think it's Chimaev that is waiting. And
But do
I
you think
think,
Chimaev has that leverage here? I don't think
well,
he
Chimaev
does.
now, the UFC, I think now the UFC and their relationship with the American president, Dana White. Sorry,
Trump.
what's that guy's name? Donald Trump.
Mm.
Who dashed Dana White, President America? Donald Trump. I think
Never say never.
all those travel things will come to pass. I think the UFC would rather South Africans don't come for my head, but I think the UFC would rather have Chimaev as a champion than Dricus. So that means that the UFC would rather have this fight done ASAP. They would
But why
rather
do
have this fight done ASAP. I feel like that whole travel thing has been settled. I think Chimaev can now travel freely to the US because that last time, if you remember, it was Biden's administration. Now it is
no,
Donald
but
Trump's
Jibril,
administration, and
why
we
do
see
you
how he's
think
ruling
so?
that country.
I'm curious. Why do you think the UFC will prefer Chimaev? I'm just asking because I mean Dricus he's like a finisher.
I think
He has finished
the
all his
UFC would
fights.
I think the UFC would prefer Chimaev because um Chimaev has more following online. Chimaev is
Mm.
more popular among the casuals. Chimaev is more likable for the casual man. If a casual man sees Chimaev and is going, I kill everybody, it's more interesting than seeing Dracos being calm and collected, in my opinion, because I'm putting myself in a promoter's seat. If I was a promoter,
Yeah,
American
Chimaev
based
is
promoter, I would
Jibril,
rather have,
you're going too far. It's very simple. Money. Who makes more
well,
money for the company?
wait, I would rather have, I would rather have a crazy Russian than a calm, collected South African. Do you understand
Mm.
what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so hence why the UFC will prefer Chimaev. I think he'll make more money. And also in the Middle East, when they go to have all those deals with the Saudis and the Abu Dhabi people, they would say we've got
Yeah.
you another main event instead of Islam Makhachev. We have Chimaev as well. We'll
But
have
here's the
Chimaev
thing.
in Riyadh
Here's
season.
the problem. We saw like Shmaev. He's the center around this conversation, especially when it comes to turning up for fights. Right?
Mhm.
He's always questionable in that area. So let's assume Chimaev is the champ now. How many fights realistically do you think Chimaev will have in a year?
It
Um.
depends.
Well.
You
Well.
can't predict that.
Well. The thing is, there was the thing with his health,
Mm.
and there was the thing with his travel issues that stopped him from fighting. But we saw his whole gimmick when he came. At the time, he hadn't make money yet, but he was broke at the time. But his whole gimmick was anytime, any
Anything.
place, he's
Mm.
ready. He fought like
and he
what
did fight
three
two
fights
back
in
to
three
back.
months. So yeah, he
He fought
fought
five
like back
times
to
in a
back
year.
weeks during those Fight Island days. So we know that he can be active if he wants to. Now, because the money is there, I think if the travel is out of the picture and depending on how easy, if he fights Dricos and he beats Dricos easy, he probably would try to have
Wow.
like that uh Pereira schedule. You know, Pereira was a fighting champion. I think we might see him be
I
being had that
sincerely
similar
doubt it.
schedule.
I doubt Shimaev will be that kind of guy. Sorry, that
Well,
active young
I'm
guy,
with you,
especially
Max.
when he becomes
I'm with you.
champion.
Yeah, I agree
Nah.
with you. I don't think, yeah,
well,
I agree with
well,
Max.
you don't think the hunger is there anymore, right? Well, I cannot argue with that.
What?
Not
I
even the
cannot argue
hunger.
with
He's just not really. I
There's
mean,
just
he's a
one
good
issue with
fighter,
him.
but
Something
I'm
must
not
come up
sure
with him.
he likes to be
What
in there a
problem?
lot. You know, he probably
No,
has
no,
other
no,
things
no.
that.
I don't think his problem is commitment or being in there. I think with Shemaya, there would always be one issue or the other. That's the problem I have with him. Something unplanned would come up.
Yeah.
He's not that kind of person. He's not a dependable guy. He's not that kind of. It's not
And
easy.
didn't some? I think he's related to a very rich Russian, a bit or
Oh
something
yeah, he's
like
not
Check,
that.
check.
related. I think he's like his mentor, godfather,
Friend.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the reason why
Check
he's
the
So
having
it
travel
could be
issues.
that this situation could be a situation where he has a lot of dough and he has contacts, so he doesn't really believe he should be
Well,
fighting for some cheap
that's what I mean by the
UFC.
motivation, like the Conor McGregor thing. You know, Conor McGregor is not motivated anymore to fight.
Yeah,
He's made so much money, he's not motivated to fight. Um, Khabib Nurmagomedov made so much money, wasn't motivated to fight. He retired. Um, Now Chimaev. with the kind of money he's making, even right now, as without being a champion, he's not making that. He's making so much money. Imagine what happens when he actually becomes a champion. He's gonna make crazy amount of money. Yeah, I do see a chance where he would give up on actually fighting frequently. But the thing is, with me, is I am taking that excuse of that health issue he had post COVID. He had COVID. He almost stopped fighting totally, and then the fact that he was having travel issues, I almost would give him that excuse, but I guess we would find out. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is it's okay for us to go now. We have been doing this quite late today.
Did you
Thank
guys
you,
talk
thank you for.
about Eubank versus Benn? Or yeah, no boxing here.
See, people from my house don't they sleep, but let's do this for 5 minutes. Let's talk about Eubanks versus
Oh, bro.
Conor Ben. I watched that boxing fight yesterday. It was happening side by side with El Clasico, Madrid versus
Yeah.
Barcelona. Was I the only one switching channels up and down?
I didn't
No,
find
just
enough. I
watch
Where
the.
didn't
I
watch
just
the
watched the Classico. I
you
didn't
probably
watch
were
the
the only
fights.
one. I saw the fight.
Yeah,
And
it was entertaining. You know, the thing is, as you guys know, no, I'm not really a very big boxing guy, but I know about this
Same here.
Eubanks and this guy. I saw the press conference earlier this year where he slapped him with egg,
Yeah.
where Eubanks slapped Conor with egg. I didn't know what that was, but when this fight, something got my attention during that workout before the fight. There was a time where there was a clip that was going online where Eubank Senior and Eubanks Junior came out from a car at the parking lot, and
Yeah.
people were saying this is the greatest, one of the greatest boxing events, or this is the greatest thing that has happened in boxing for a long time. Da, 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 da. I was like, wait a minute, why is this so significant, bro? I switched on Sky Sports. I was watching this fight. I was watching the workouts, and I pulled my phone and I went to Chat GPT and I asked for the timeline of events of things that have happened between Eubank Senior and Eubanks Junior. You know how Chat GPT is; it broke down everything. I read the whole thing. I read the timeline of events between the first fight that was cancelled in 2022 against Conor Ben, and dude, when I finished reading it, as you know, a pro wrestling fan, I like stories. I was invested ASAP. I've already
Oh,
chosen my
yeah.
favorite. My favorite was Eubanks. I was cheering for Eubanks, and I forgot about El Clasico. So
Yeah.
it was it was a really really
Yeah.
entertaining fight. I know you Ebukadi, so this is your bread and butter. Thoughts
Yeah.
about the fight?
Yeah, 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 bro. It was a really good fight, man. You know, one issue that a lot of people talked about was the age of Chris Eubank.
Mm,
He's obviously 36, and he was fighting this guy Conor, who is 28.
mm.
He's been at the higher weight class. He fights at 160 normally, and Conor fights normally at one. Did they say 47 or something? And then he's coming
It
up
was like
two weight classes.
two weight classes.
Fight.
Yeah, I did see that.
And then this guy, Chris, is obviously older, so he had issues with making weight. He missed weight by just 0.05, and then he was fined, guess what? $500,000, which is over 350,000 pounds
I think it
for
was
just,
not just about weight class. It
you
was
know,
about their hydration clause. They said
no,
you shouldn't weigh above 170 on fight during walking to the ring.
yeah,
I think that
so,
was what they were saying.
yeah, so that he had to make weight, he had to make 160. That was the one
Mhm,
he missed. Then he
mhm,
also had rehydration clause. He shouldn't weigh more than 10 pounds more, which is
mm,
170 by the next morning, which is
mm,
Saturday morning around I think 8 a.m. They'll do
mm.
another weight. So he made weight in that one. He came in the morning at 169 point something. So that was fine in the end. But anyway, the fight was boxing, real boxing people have said that it was very interesting because two of them are not really championship level guys, and they
Yeah, I
were
was
just
going to ask you that.
you know,
I was like, what's the big deal? I don't know. It looked like
yeah,
two upper mid card guys
yeah,
going
yeah,
against each other with a fantastic story and a legacy behind, with both fathers
yeah,
being rivals. It's like something for like movies to be written.
It's like Creed.
You know, I live,
It's
I live,
like
I live,
watching
I live
Creed.
for stories. I live
yeah.
for stories.
So
It looked,
that's why I like
and
WWE.
two of them,
I'm a big WWE fan, and like
yeah,
even in WWE, right? I'm attracted to father and son combos, right? I love the Cowboy Bob Orton and Randy Orton stories. I love Dusty Rhodes and Cody Rhodes. I love Uso and the Rikishi and his sons, the Usos. Currently, one of my favorite wrestlers is Dominic Mysterio, son of Rey Mysterio, and he's supposed
Mm,
to be a bad guy, and I still like him. So those they just hit two of the things where they like. They like father and son narratives, and they like
narrative.
storyline. And
Yeah.
so this was
So
fantastic for me.
their fathers, just for that context as well, on that point, their fathers fought in the 90s. First one, I think 1990, and Chris Eubank Sr. won that one. And then they did a second one at Old Trafford that was a draw.
Mm,
So Eubanks are at that point they were 1-0, you
mm-hmm,
know, one win and one draw. So coming
mm,
into this one, the whole narrative was the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. fell out with his dad. And then, his dad said he wasn't going to come to the fight. He was complaining and saying the fight was never going to happen. So that's why when you saw that picture of him arriving eventually in that Rolls Royce, and the guy has this, charisma about him. I actually like him.
mm-hmm,
You see, he came in, they opened the door in his, robe like this. He
mm-hmm.
just stood there and he was like, and then the whole stadium. And again, for people who love football, I'm also a huge football person. That was probably so that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was opened in 2019. That was probably the best atmosphere in that stadium. In fact, Tottenham fans have ever seen in their life because they never win any trophies. So,
Dude, that's
you know,
too that's
so,
overrated. Wait,
yeah,
wait,
That was cold.
wait,
That was
wait.
cold.
Wait, dude, Burna Boy performed there twice. Wizkid
well,
performed there. Tyson Fury fought there. Anthony Joshua fought there. Is this Eubanks that you want to see is the biggest atmosphere for Tottenham there? I don't know why you are giving Tottenham stray bullets. But ladies and gentlemen, H Dog from New Zealand says Molweni, my African brothers from New Zealand. I think South Africa
shout out
and
H
New
Dog.
Zealand. Big shout out, H Dog. Really, really appreciate it. Unfortunately, none of us can translate Molweni here except maybe Demola up here. Demola, can you translate Molweni for us?
I
Probably
honestly don't
means
know what that is
greetings.
right now.
Probably means
That should
greetings
be
in South
probably a
Africa.
greeting.
Gorimbo says we should talk about Liverpool before we leave. Uh,
Nah, they are what
what more roses do you want us to give you, Liverpool?
nobody cares
What
about
roses do you
Liverpool.
want? Well, they've won the title. They made the race very, very, very boring.
No, Arsenal made it
Because
boring, to be fair. Because
yeah,
Arsenal
yeah,
fell apart.
Liverpool winning too much made it very boring, to be honest.
Mm.
But yeah, and well, good news for Liverpool. Mo Salah signed again, so he's going to be with them. Trent Alexander is going to go to Real Madrid, so that's not good. However, they would not miss him as much because they've got a replacement. However, Mo Salah staying might be one of the reasons why they probably would go back to back next season. But um, back to next season, Chelsea is winning the league. I don't care what anybody says. Uh, Rainbow says Moweni is how are you? Oh, okay. Oh, more like it. I am Safa in New Zealand. Yes, it's a greeting. And Gorimbo says I can tell you guys are Chelsea supporter. Yeah, thanks H Dog. Thanks Temba.
Well,
Really, really
I
appreciate
can
it.
disappoint you. I'm not a
Uh,
Chelsea supporter. I'm a Man
well,
United
I'm a Chelsea fan. Ebuka is a
Rest
Man
in
U fan. So both of
rest
us
in
are
England.
miserable this season. We
I'm a
have been
Manchester
putting
United fan, so we're all sharing the
But what
the
did you?
miserable.
Imola too is a Manchester United fan.
I don't support any club, man. I do not support
Shut
any
up.
club. I am a
Shut up,
neutral.
Demola. Shut up, Demola. It is not possible to be a neutral. No
I
matter
am a
how you
neutral.
sing
Trust
this
me.
song about you being a neutral in
Imola
football,
says
it
he's
is
neutral.
impossible. It's not
Have
possible.
you ever
But
seen
yeah,
me support any club before?
dude. Okay.
I do
Okay.
not support it. It is well
Okay.
documented. I've said it on my podcast before. The best way to enjoy sports is to be a neutral.
Yeah.
All right. Temba thinks Trent is not going anywhere. I'm sorry, Temba. Trent is going to Madrid. All right,
He's
guys.
gone.
Thank you. Really, really appreciate you. This has been a fun chat. Hopefully, we get to do it next week. But I beg, because today I'm going to now I have to go and face the battle or dance to the music now of disturbing this whole house, of doing this podcast late. The kid. So I beg next week, we get to do it at 9, so we'll finish before 10. All right, folks. Thank you so
Cool one.
much. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Enjoy the rest of your evening, African fighters. We out.